I'll take my back spot.
Hello. How's everybody this afternoon? Wow, that's bigger cheer than I got coming out.
Do you know what the number is?
Oh no!
Does anyone know? Whenever we do our podcast, before we start, it's traditional for us to go on the internet and work out what number it is.
Because we never remember.
Does anyone know what number this podcast is?
Can someone basically...
87? It's not number 7.
87.
Oh, don't make this pure panto.
He's behind
number
you.
7? But that's ridiculous. Okay. Are we ready to go into our podcast mode? I'll do the theme tune. Dun 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 bim 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 bling. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very 87th, almost forgot, Shut Up and Sit Down podcast live from SHUX, the Shut Up and Sit Down convention in Vancouver on a weekend. Say hello, everybody. They're a raucous bunch. And oh boy, are we going to briefly talk about a variety of games to you today.
My name is Quentin Smith, and today I am joined by some people.
I'm Paul Dean. Hello. Still.
I am Matt Lees, an extra special convention guest. It's Pip Philippa War.
Hello.
On this, the award-winning board game podcast, we are going to be talking about some board games. We're going to be talking about the shadows and lies of Shadows Amsterdam. We're going to be talking about the deduction game of the Shipwreck Arcana, which I understand broke Paul.
Oh yeah, doesn't take much.
We're going to be talking about Kung Fu Zoo, in which I flicked a zebra into a hole. We're going to be talking about Illusion, in which Matt said, "Oh, this is my game," and lost. Yep. We're going to be talking about the edible game of High Tea Assassin.
Some people over there who either like assassinations or food. It's not a big Venn diagram.
They've had a lot of sugar.
Oh, yeah, okay. A lot of sugar.
And our last game will be a little game called Blood on the Clocktower. And I will tease this by saying we had not heard of this before we came to SHUX, and I think it is, Matt and I played it, and it is our game of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I've only played about 3 things, but easily yes. And I keep singing it in my head to the tune of Smoke on the Water as well, which is making me quite happy.
And finally, we are going to have a special feature, which I know nothing about.
Yep. Nobody knows but Matt Lees.
Not telling us.
No
all
way.
The rest. Okay. Paul Dean,
Hello.
you played a little game called Shadows Amsterdam.
I did, which is right here in the con right now, which everybody can try if they want to.
Not now, though. Please.
No, please remain here. I had no idea what this was about, and Shadows Amsterdam makes it sound like an urban adventure of, I don't know, assassination and crime and things.
Drugs is the first thing that leaps to my mind.
I'll be honest, it's furries.
Really?
It's anthropomorphic animals. It's like a cross between Mysterium and Codenames with furries, with animals. No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Look, bear with me here. You have 2 teams of people, like you might have in Codenames, and each team commander has a map which corresponds to the map in front of you, which is a bunch of different locations in a city that I guess is Amsterdam. There's like parks and there's hospitals, and they're full of animals doing like a dog police officer and like a... Thank you. Like a dog police officer and I don't know, a cat on a swing in a park, because that's what you would do. The same way that in Codenames you have this secret layout that says, tell your team to go here, not to go here. We have this, but just for a map, just for locations. And the same way you would in Mysterium, you pass people visual clues that hopefully tell your team to go to the right spots. That's it.
So we have the art assets on the map.
Yeah, the
and
maps. You'll have things like, oh, there's a hospital, and that hospital might have a room in that looks kind of blue, looks like a hospital room. There's a heart monitor, there's someone on a bed, and then your team captain passes you a picture that sort of corresponds to some of the same colours.
So, of course, in Mysterium, you're being given dreams by the ghost, whereas in this, you're being given...
I've got no idea what the theme is of why you are walking around the city themed with animals
It's
going
the fact
to
they've
locations.
chosen to make all of the characters animals, but then set it in a real human city.
I know!
Interesting.
Thematically, I don't know what's happening there.
Is it that, because I'm interested in this, but I'm wondering what the continuity of it is. Is there some sort of like, because obviously we did a stream really recently of the Whitechapel, of being like you're trying to track where someone's going. Is it like movement, or is it just randomly jumping around between locations?
It's moving one or two spaces. The problem moving two spaces is that I think you give 2 clues, and that could be just more confusing. But the idea is, based on your hidden map as your team leader, you need people to go here, here, and here to pick up these items, and then here to exit the map. And, I should add, it's all in real time.
Oh, what?
Oh, yes. No, I completely forgot the detail that both you and the other team are grabbing these clues from the shared area and then trying to direct people to go in that direction.
I can't deal with these bombshells.
Yeah.
Does it involve real animals?
Yes. And they're here now. No. But yeah, that gives it a weird sense of pace and franticness. And we played a few games and they were over in like 10 minutes. That's the other thing. It's very fast.
So it's sort of Codenames or Mysterium with the clues, but there's another team just handing out clues and then
in real time. And you can watch them doing better than you in front of you, which is the worst thing.
Is it like Codenames that there are like places like minefields, sort of places you don't want to go?
There are places that you don't want to go because for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's an animal there. I have no idea what the plot or the theme or any of this is. Like the game as a game makes sense and is quite good. It's never needed a plot. Somebody somewhere decided let's put some Disney if it was a Zootopia themed game, I could deal with that.
That would make a lot of sense.
That would make a lot of sense.
But it's Amsterdam, famous for its.
Amsterdam's famous for
animals.
Is this a family-friendly podcast? Because I have questions about furries.
Well, we all do, but I mean, what level of
Well, so
intensity are these questions?
when I found out what that actually meant last year,
There were a lot of them outside yesterday.
okay, we'll get to that. But so is just anything that is an anthropomorphic animal a furry? How does Arthur the cartoon Aardvark fit
Aardvark,
into
yeah.
this? What is he a furry?
No.
I don't want to derail this podcast. I did once see a furry that was a whale, which is not an animal that I think is, and then whales are fundamentally not furry, but
I feel fundamentally unequipped to have this conversation.
Okay.
shall we just move on to another game
We'll
really
take
quickly?
that to the internet later.
Yeah, that's fair.
Incognito browsing of.
That was Shadows Amsterdam. I'm
Well, a lot of people are suggesting you shouldn't take that to the internet.
Oh.
Just for the record, lots of people going,
Yeah.
no, I've done that.
Let's just move on.
Let's move on.
Okay. I'm curious to try this. That sounds pretty strong. Paul, you also played the Shipwreck Arcana.
Shipwreck Arcana. Yeah, this, I'm going to see, even describing this is going to break my brain.
Here we go.
So, it's a card game about guessing numbers. You draw numbers out of a bag, tiles. You'll draw 2 of those. One of them you'll place down in front of the other people in front of you. The other one you need people to guess. Could be a number between 1 and 7, 1 and 7. There we go. I've got a number 1 to 7 in my hand. What could it be? Well, it's fine. We have a deck of cards we've laid out in front of us, each of which corresponds to some kind of logic clue. And the clue can be like, the number is not odd. Or if the number is higher than this, then lower than this. Or if the number is between these values, or if the number is equal to a value that you have already drawn. And the idea is you put a token down next to this. So you say, right, my other number corresponds to these clues, or it doesn't correspond to this clue. And people do this kind of process of deduction of going, he's put his number down there, which means it can't be bigger than that one, it can't be double that one, but it could be 2 away from this one. The problem being that all these clue cards are different, and as you use them, you start to burn through the deck each turn, and the clues go away, and the clues become different.
Oh.
And then my brain pours out of my ears.
So you
because I'm
have
not
to
good at logic.
remember the clues that are now gone.
No, you don't. The clues change, meaning that, yes, your framework for guessing changes.
Okay.
But I guess the clues that existed before still remain true.
They go away. They just go away. If you use them a lot, they fade, which means they wear out. So different clues appear.
But is the information you got from the clues still true?
It can be sometimes. Because the other thing is, when you discard the cards, you flip them over, and there is like a secret little bonus on the back. That is then a bonus that you could burn later, which is like the ability to ask a question like, is this number 4, 5, or 6? And someone can burn that card and ask you, and you go, no. And they go, oh,
So wait, is one player just like a quizmaster who knows the answers and can sit back and watch?
You rotate. Sorry, I should have explained this. It's cooperative. So, I mean, we played it with 3 people, and the idea is on your turn, you're the person who draws those 2 tiles. You pick one for people to guess. You reveal the other, and then the other players collaboratively talk about this and go, well, you know, if he's put this down, it can't be this, so it could be this.
So it's got a rotating team.
It's got a rotating thing going around, and then obviously there's a bit of deduction of once you've played certain tokens and they're out the bag, you also know, like, well, it couldn't be that number because all of those numbers are currently out the bag.
Okay. Can you guess? Like, you know, if you're like, oh, it's a number between 1 and 7, I'm just like, 6.
You can, and
There are no ramifications.
you just might lose.
Oh.
It was incredibly hard for me because it's not just a logic puzzle of doing that sort of deduction of this number isn't this, but it could be between these 2. It's the fact that it's ever changing, that you have like these 4 cards in front of you and you'll discard one, and then there's different criteria. And also, like, I'm just not very good at logic, so it's an ever changing thing. It's ever sort of growing deduction, and all these variables change all the time. I found it fascinating, and I was bad at it, but I would play it again. I know there are people out here who would probably be amazing at it because some people are just great at that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, just raw deduction has been a big part of, you know, like gaming, and we talked about puzzles in the live Q&A last night, but it's actually rare that board games sort of hit us with just pure, you will calculate this now.
It is a bit like that, yeah.
Because we played Cryptid, which I'll probably talk about on the next podcast, but that's another game if you're interested in Cryptid, with art by Crunchy, that's lovely. But yeah, I was nuts when I was nuts. I was driven crazy when I found the rules, and it's just like, oh, the players just have to calculate constantly, and it's just so cruel.
I mean, I just came in on the end of you guys playing that game, and you were like, ah!
Yeah.
You were kind of dying from melting down of just deducing on this mad board.
And
I'd be interested to hear you talk about that, because I just saw the stress at the end of it.
It's a similar thing of like, you're looking for, on Cryptid, you're looking for a thing on a map. It can't be here, it can't be within 2 spaces of this, it is next to this, all of this deduction.
But with numbers.
Yeah.
The sexiest of components.
I was going to say, I'm so tempted. It's like, can I just
Go and play this now.
You don't need me, you're fine.
Paul, would you say the numbers of Shipwreck Arcana are more or less interesting than the map of Cryptid?
For me, more.
Ooh, why is that?
Because the game was ever shifting and ever changing.
Okay.
And also, I just like the presentation. It looks kind of like vaguely tarot.
Oh yeah, no,
is
the
quite
art is
cool.
beautiful. If people Google the Shipwreck Arcana, they can see the art. But yes, I very much. Yeah, Cryptid feels more like you're sort of circling an answer, and you know the possibility space gets narrower and narrower, and then a player goes, "I have solved it, huh?" And then they ask a player, "Is it here?" And the player goes, "Nope." And then that player goes, "This is the worst game I've ever played." But yeah, I enjoyed Cryptid, so it sounds like you should definitely check out the Shipwreck Arcana. Okay, as we're moving on, Matt and I are going to talk about a very intelligent and difficult game now called Kung Fu Zoo.
Yes.
It's not intelligent or difficult.
No. We played we played Kung Fu Zoo on the first night of the con when we were all a little bit fried, and game designer Jonathan Ying, creator of Bargain Quest and other things, said, "Hey, play this," and I was like, "Great," because it just looked like it mainly consisted of plastic and colours. And the way the game works is you have these dice, and they have 4 each. They are your animals, and then the box inside of it has a kind of like vacuum pressed shape, which has a little pool where they can all the dice can go into, with a bit like pool. Holes in the corners of the box, which means if at any point one of your dice animals falls into a hole, they are out. Mm-hmm. And the game works by basically you take it in turns to put one of your dice on one of the 4 middle sides of the boxes. You can choose, you can take the box and you can slide it around and choose which angle you want to shoot from, put it in the middle of one of the sides, and simply flick it in to try and knock someone else's animal into a hole. The thing I really, really liked about this, and it's ingenious, is the fact that each of the dices to represent the animals, they have on the 6 sides of the die different parts. So you've got like on the bottom of it has their feet, on the front it has the animal's face, and on the back it has their tail, and it has a mechanic whereby if at any point your animal ends up on its back with the feet in the air, it's stunned. Mm-hmm. And then it means that once all of your dice are in the box, you then just pick up a dice that's already in the box, take it out, and get to flick it. But you cannot do that if they're stunned. They just have to remain there, which starts to add the temptation of being like, maybe I can try and knock that in. And then I'll bounce off it and maybe knock my guy onto his feet again.
Enter stage left. Quintinius P. Quimbles is like Jonathan, when he taught us the game, was like, now you could flick over one, you could hit one of your own dice to knock it back on its feet, but I've literally never seen that. And then I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
So I did my favorite thing in dexterity games, which is saying exactly what you intend to do before you do it, and because it just makes everyone excited. And then I flicked my dice, and it went straight in a hole.
Yeah. It didn't even go straight in the hole. It bounced around, missed the thing, and then just sort of span. And it pirouetted in circles while spinning for about 5 seconds before eventually cleanly just going straight down a hole. It was one of the most absolutely spectacular failures I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like you couldn't even, if you wanted to do something like that, not in a million years. But this is good. This game was really quite strong.
I like it a lot.
For the same reason that Cube Quest is strong. I don't know if that's even still available, but I'm hoping they do another print run if it's not. Because Cube Quest is a dexterity game about flicking cubes and trying to like capture territory and knock the opponent's king out, but it's powered by the same rule as this, which is a rule of physics, which is that dice are really hard to flick. Like squares just do not travel where you want them to, which means it is an intrinsically funny game.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. And I like the fact that everything just went consistently badly for everyone.
It's a game theoretically about knocking other people's dice into holes, but actually it's just endlessly people shooting their own dice into holes. And that's nice. Also, all the animals have little powers, like my zebras could cause a dust up, because you play like a pack of zebras or a pack of cheetahs or whatever, which are like 4 dice that are that color. And a zebra dust up means that when anyone is about to take a shot, you go, wait, close your eyes. And then they have to close their eyes. The gorillas, I think, can pick up each other, so you can flick your dice off the top of a gorilla.
Yeah.
It's just super.
It's really nice. It's one of those games where, like, you know, for us, like Quinn's quite rightly was looking and going, this is good, but it kind of needs something else. But for a family game with young kids, it's just perfect. The level is just right.
When was the last time we found a dexterity game we didn't like?
I don't know. I don't tend to like, because I think that so much of a serious answer from me is that, like, dexterity games, because they are so tactile, I think I often don't bother playing them unless they're kind of beautiful and have beautiful pieces. And I feel that often, if you have beautiful objects and get to do things with them, that's already a good baseline.
It's enough.
So yeah.
Shall we move
Boring
on?
answer, but there you go.
Kung Fu Zoo. I don't know what the price point is, but if it's cheap, then hey, maybe that's a thing you can buy and drink a beer and shoot a dice into a hole. Let's talk about a game that I think a few of us played. Let's talk about Illusion. Welcome to a realm of lies and mystery. Matt did really badly in a realm of lies and mystery. This is a game from the designer of... we should talk about the other game of his you played, but from the designer of The Game and The Mind. Don't try and Google The Game, because you'll have a bad time. But do try and Google The Mind, because we did a written review of that one, I think, and that's a lovely game. But he makes incredibly simple games, and Illusion is just that. It is did one of you guys want to describe Illusion?
Pip, go for it.
Ooh. Okay, so picture the scene. Sorry. Just blew that mic out. What you have is you have a coloured arrow that points, and then you start placing cards that have different proportions of colours on their face. And what you're doing is you're trying to position them in a run from most of whatever the colour the arrow is to least. And at any time you can, not at any time, when it is your turn, otherwise it would be chaos. When it is your turn, you can take a card and place it, reorienting the others, but only by sliding. If someone else has made an error, then we all have to live with it. So you can either contribute, or you can say, I don't believe it, to the person.
It's quite specific, isn't it, in the manual? It says you have to say, I don't believe it.
But to the person who has just placed something. And the thing is, because you aren't allowed to reorder what's been placed, only insert your card into the existing order, it might be that you didn't make an error, but someone you didn't call on did. And so you start flipping them over, you get the percentages, and then Matt Lees puts his head in his hands.
Yeah, it's really tough, because these cards, the art on them is often extremely abstract. It's like someone's taken quite a lot of psychedelic drugs and then opened up Illustrator. It's.
I was going to say it was a clip art rave.
Yeah, that's way better. My analogy was super lazy. Thank you. But yeah, they're just like, here's a mess of circles all overlapping, and it's like, what percentage out of 100 is this red? And you go, oh, and as it adds and adds, it gets more and more difficult to determine where something would go. And often we found that we get it wrong, but there would be like a percentage in it. Like that one's 24%, that one's 25%. You got that wrong.
Yeah. Or our mind would fill in the overlap, and you'd see the 3D nature of the object or something, and you'd sort of mentally not see the area was actually covered. You'd be like, oh, that's clearly 50%, because I can imagine the extra percentage.
You can imagine the other half of the ring or the circle.
Some fun surprises in the deck, like because if there's like 100 cards in it, and it's the horror of like maybe it's a card with a load of red diamonds, and then there's another card with one big red diamond, and you're like, which has more red? But then the next card will be like a red handprint. And I don't know, my brain is bad, but I was imagining that like if you tipped the card up and all the red poured into a little jar, and then we poured the same little jar of red onto the card. But anyway, I did okay, actually. So
like, that sounds insane, but that worked for you. Like I could not do it, but I really enjoyed the fact that you could not at any point say, I don't believe this. It wasn't like you can just call it out. You could only call it out when you were the next player, which means you might look at something and go, there's no way that's right. But then you couldn't do anything, it was up to them. And as it went on, you got to a point where you're like, well, I'm 100% sure that this has more red than this and less red than this, but then you look further down the line and you're like, how confident am I about everything that's been done so far?
What's the limit of players that you play this with?
I would guess it has no limit, but I think the box says 4.
Yeah, we played it with 4. I found that I was really good at it, and I think that was entirely because I was quite tired at that point, so I'd sort of zoned out a little with my eyes, and so when you're sort of looking at them without focus, you stop getting into some of the traps, you start actually seeing the proportion.
Yeah, it was really funny. I took it to like the little volunteer lounge we have, and I sat down with people and said, I want to play something simple. And then we were playing it, and then one of the volunteers said, if you just let your eyes sort of like go out of focus.
Yeah, like
so
a
then
magic
it was just
eye kind of.
3 men trying to make their eyes go out of focus, looking at a table.
Like some horrible magic eye challenge.
Yeah, and then, but it has that lovely reveal as well, because if you have like 8 cards in a line and you're like, I don't believe it, and then it's like, you're hoping they're not flip, 32, 31, 29, and you get that mounting horror of like, oh no, they're all correct.
And we definitely had one round where there were like 8 cards there, and you get to a point where you feel confident calling it just because you think one of these must be slightly wrong, and then they're not, it's perfect.
Yeah. But I should mention, you played the prototype of the next game coming from the same gentleman, right?
Yes, I did, on a stage in front of people. It was a bit raucous, and one of the mics kept popping, so I don't know if that video will ever appear. But yeah,
what's the game called? Wavelength.
Wavelength is a game which is made by people who made The Mind and the people who made Monikers. And it was pretty interesting. The way the game works is it's a team game of you trying to be psychic with your team, and you have a spinner. I say a little spinner. This one was gigantic, but I'm assuming it's going to be smaller. You have a little spinner whereby basically you get to see 2 halves of a spectrum. So like a good example of one of them was the best tasting thing in the world and the worst tasting thing in the world. And then you get shown this little thing, you lift up and you see a line somewhere. And then what happens is you close that down, and then on this spectrum from very, very bad to very, very good where the line is that you've got to match, and you've got to then say something.
So something that is 43% between the worst and best thing in the world.
Or like 20, be like, it's there. It's not quite bad, but it's slightly bad. And then, you've got to choose what to say. And obviously, you can see some of the inspiration from Monikers in the fact that I think that the idea is that as the rounds go on, there are more stipulations, so you're only allowed to say, like, one word or whatever like that.
Oh, really?
I don't know how finished the design is, to be honest, but as it went on, it was like, pick a word, or you're only allowed to use certain qualifiers and stuff like that to stop you from being like too, in the same way with all psychic style games, you can't be like slightly or whatever. But it really was quite interesting.
I mean, what was so nice is that, I remember the round I saw was like the worst and best person in the world.
Yeah.
And you said George Clooney?
No,
sorry, Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson.
Two very different people. But then it's the thing of, it's not like code names where you're like, it's binary. I think it's this or it's not. Yeah. It's like they then have to decide on this like little dial.
It's like a radio dial. Wavelength, I think is a cool name for it, because it's
nice.
fun. You get to turn this little thing to try and tune it to like the point. And it's nice in the fact that the band also is not like a single line. It's like you have got a kind of bullseye zone. You've got like, you get more points if you completely get it versus like you kind of got it.
I think this sounds great.
And then the fun thing is after your team have looked at it and decided where they think it is and had that debate, the other team then gets to decide if they think that you got it wrong or right, basically, because they like, I think it's way more than that or way less than that, or they can say, I think you got it right, and then depending on whether or not they're right about it, they get points. But it was really interesting in the fact that sometimes there were disagreements. Like, you know, there were like, we talked about like where, I think one of them was fantasy and sci-fi.
Ooh,
and I said I think someone said Star Wars, and I thought, and that ended up being...
Star Wars is pure fantasy.
Well, that's
but it's
what
also,
I said.
But it's not as much as Lord of the Rings.
No.
So you need some give on the spectrum.
That's what I said. Other people agreed it was more sci-fi, and that's what it ended up being. And again, I can see already people shaking their heads and nodding. It ended up being, it derailed us because we just talked about that for about 5 minutes, which was really cool.
But that's fantastic. I can see endless categories and endless ways. Like, is the game even the point, or are the arguments the point?
This is the thing, actually, and I would say, because I know it's going to Kickstarter soon, I thought it was very cool, but I thought the one thing which was not perfect was the two axes, you know, the two things. Some of them were brilliant. Some of them didn't really work. Some of them kind of felt like there wasn't enough grey space in the middle. And I feel like that is where the game either flies or kind of stumbles.
Yes, but they were the monikers. People sort of Alex Haig and friends have made incredible cards for monikers. Mm-hmm. So certainly those cards are playtested.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying on the basis of what we played, and I'm not even saying this to be like, I'm saying this in the hope that they might listen to it as well, because I think that like some of them didn't really work.
Good version of this game.
Some of them didn't really work. But it was really funny and really interesting, and what I loved was when it completely worked. There was a point where Isaac Vega, I think one of them was like clean to dirty, and Isaac Vega said, it's a hotel room, it's just being cleaned, but one of the maids that cleaned it had been out the night before, got really drunk, and when they came into work, they were still kind of a little bit drunk. Okay. Which is like such a specific image, and I was like, I had to really argue with Erik about it, because Erik was like, no, and I was sure where it was, and when we lifted it, it was just dead on. And it was like, we both, and that was a really wonderful moment of being
was
like...
Was it a percentage? Because I want to know whether what I'm thinking is correct.
It wasn't a percentage, but you tell me what it is, and I can probably convert it.
So I was going to go 83.
It was probably around that mark, yeah.
I was going to go 81.
Yeah.
Wow, that's nuts.
And it's interesting, actually, that it is an analog thing, and it would be quite easy for them to put on like some little radio-style lines, so you could then, like the way you would with a scale in your kitchen, literally then have a number, like, which could be, I don't know, choosing a number is probably less fun than turning a dial, but
this is a clean segue, because I was in the audience with Jen Sandercock, who does the Edible Games Cookbook, and that worst person in the world came up, and you said,
I felt like I was getting some flack for that, because I said Mel Gibson, and it was definitely on the side of being a bad person, but it wasn't that close to the worst person in the world.
Jen and I in the audience, we're saying, well, obviously the meter needs to give, so worst person in the world, and we looked at each other and went, Hitler. You know, just like to pull a thing out of the air, but we said it at the same time. They were like, okay, so if Hitler's there, the question is, how much better than Hitler is he? So it's like then, but you know what? When the thing was revealed, we were exactly right. We were like, your team should have gone higher. Okay, but of course, so to recap, we talked briefly there about Illusion, which is available for sale now, and that was Wavelength, which is coming to Kickstarter very soon. But of course, let's talk about Jen Sandercock, because she was demoing one of her games here, wasn't she?
She was, might still be, I'm not sure.
Oh yes, I think she's demoing it all day.
I think it might depend on the amount of high tea left for High Tea Assassin. Yes, that was the name of the game, and as I found out backstage about 10 minutes ago, it's very similar to Win, Lose, Banana, which I helped win.
A fine game.
A fine game. Matt, not so keen?
Well, I lost Win, Lose, Banana, but it's fine. I've played many. Is anybody here not familiar with Win, Lose, Banana? I believe we've talked about it on the podcast. Now, would you like to explain Win, Lose, Banana?
Well, so actually, do you know what? I'm going to explain High Tea Assassin just because, like, then you can reverse engineer, but I don't then need to explain how it's different. So the idea with High Tea Assassin is that you will sit down in front of these beautiful plates, wonderful high tea arrangement, and you have we had mysterious pastries. I think there were sandwiches lurking at some point, and they were covered in this cream stuff with some butterflies over the top, and so they all had different fillings. One was a dark chocolate ganache, one was a white chocolate ganache, and there was jam. And so, yeah. And so what happened in mine was the dark chocolate ganache represented you being the monarch in this situation. So the winner in Win, Lose, Banana. And so everyone would take like a bite out of their thing and work out what the taste was that they had. I stuffed it entirely into my face because I thought that was the safest way to avoid other people having spoilers.
To get the strongest flavour.
I thought so. So that was certainly a moment that I couldn't speak or breathe for a time. Anyway, and so I actually ended up being the monarch, and so I had these two other people, one of whom definitely had a white chocolate ganache, one of whom was a jam person.
Yeah, I'm a jam person, I suppose. I just keep thinking about this flavour identification thing and the fact that I remember when we played Jen Sandercock's other game, which involved being resistant spies with cream puffs, I remember having a deep mental crisis when I tasted it and thought, what is that flavour? And then someone else ate those and said, mine's cinnamon. And I was like, I think mine was cinnamon, but it can't be. And then I was like, what is this flavour? Oh God. And then it was like, yeah, some of them are the same flavour. I was like, thank goodness. I just found myself unable to know what I was eating. Yeah.
But yeah, so I had my two loyal subjects, loyal whatever. One of them being an assassin covered in jam, and I needed to figure out which of them was going to betray me, and I was going to then eat whatever it was that they offered me. I had hope that I was correct. Obviously for me, not really a loss. I like jam, but in the spirit of being in the game, that was interesting because they were strangers, and so it wasn't like if I was playing with you and I could like look for tells, or Quinn's being incredibly excessively honest about
But
things.
it's chocolate. It's tasty chocolate. Eat my chocolate.
Classic tale of your jam, your lips look a little bit jammy and sticky. You've been eating jam.
I was kind of like trying to, maybe I should have like seen if they could like breathe on me or something. I'd be like, But and
milky.
I asked whether anyone had a jam allergy. Jen was like, no, we would have checked. That's fine. I was like, okay, sorry, I'm going to stop with the murder theorizing. And I managed to get it right.
Boom. You were not assassinated by jammy poison.
I was not. Although I was thinking maybe if they didn't want it, I could still have it. It's like, I've had a good run.
So it's basically Win, Lose, Banana, but everyone gets a cake first.
Everyone gets two cakes. Well, no, I had 2 cakes. I'm not sure about anyone else. I thought that was my priority.
It sounds like the game of the year. Win, Lose, Banana, but everyone gets a cake.
One person might get 2 cakes.
I'm the monarch.
I like cake.
But it's 2 people earnestly telling you they're eating white chocolate ganache when one of them is lying.
Yeah.
I'm into it. But of course, we then taught you Win, Lose, Banana backstage, and which is a horrible, creepy sentence to say. But did you feel that it was significantly improved by
So
the rapper?
I think one of the things that I was so aware of was playing it with people that I'd never met before. I had no sense of what their tells might be.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things that is either dependent on how good you are as a poker player or as someone who wants to like whittle it down through conversation or has a strategy they want to try out, and how much is I have sat down with 2 friends and I will figure this out.
Yeah, well, I figure, especially because Jen Sandercock's thing is a cookbook full of recipes of games you can bake and make. I think actually playing this game with strangers is probably a deeply unusual thing that would only happen at conventions. Because if you just went up to people on the street and like, hey, want to play a game? Maybe. Eat this. You're not gonna.
That's totally
Also,
valid.
it might be poisoned. It's like,
I think again,
I'm
it's
a
like,
monarch. It's none of this.
I mean, this is literally a way to just turn dessert into a mini game.
Yeah,
it is pretty cool.
When we played the cream puff French resistance simulation, I just found there was something so like pleasantly intimate about like eating desserts with people as a
Yeah.
prop in a game.
I think she does so many interesting things with the games don't break if you don't necessarily want the food either. Like so,
really?
So I played the what was it? The Order of the Knights of the Oven Mitt.
Yes.
That was on their site, and so I remember I got called out for being a monster because I don't like Maltesers. But it meant that part of the way that we ended up playing was me guiding the other person to the things I didn't want to eat. So there was a kind of negotiation there, or it changed the dynamic of what constituted success to my tummy.
I mean, I love it. I love everything that Jen's doing, and that is available right outside. And I think she has some. Does she have a early version of her book for people to look at, or is that?
Oh, I'm not sure actually.
She does.
know
I think
that.
I saw her setting up earlier, and I think she does, unless I've lost my marbles. She does. Yeah.
And I think also if you were a Kickstarter backer, she said to make yourself known to her, because I think there are pins.
There are pins.
Wow.
And also, for those of you who haven't worked it out, Win, Lose, Banana is a game in which you get 3 pieces of paper. On one of them you write win, on one of them you write lose, on the third one you write banana. Each of you takes one at random. The person who says win immediately announces themselves as being the winner. And then the other 2 people both commence to convince them that they are the banana.
I am the banana.
I'm the banana.
I'm the
banana.
I'm the banana.
You can't be. Are you sure you're the banana?
I'm the banana.
I choose Matt.
I was actually the loser, which meant that I won. And that's the entire game.
Except once you've played it 20 times and someone's going, this time I really am the banana. It's something else.
It's good. That's the game.
I was so confused because all 3 of us, Paul hadn't arrived at that point, all 3 of us had bananas on our person and were eating them. And I was kind of like, do I need to save this? And so I was like holding my banana skin for the longest time because Quince was like, I'll teach you this game. I was like, okay.
You were walking around with a banana skin because you thought it was an essential component of playing the game. And it's like, no, you can put that in the bin, Pip. It's so good. Which is really funny.
My favourite thing about board game conventions, like you walk around, you say, oh, these people are playing, Root. These people are playing, Through the Desert, and then, oh, these people are staring at a little wooden horse. Is that okay?
Yeah.
There's often just something bizarre.
I will tell you my favourite convention story, hands down. I saw this, somebody had tagged us on Instagram with this story, and I thought it was wonderful. As part of the mega game, which yesterday was a generational thing, whereby people took over, and we talked about this last night at the Q&A, where people turned up and they went, my son, come, let me teach you the ways of our people. And they had a round where they had crossover, where they could try and tell them some stuff, then they disappeared, and their generation would carry on. One family invented their own, basically, cryptocurrency.
Oh, you're referring to Goscoin.
Goscoin.
No, my other gene.
Do we have the inventor of Goscoin here?
Oh, no, this
amazing.
Round of applause.
The inventor of Goscoin.
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I love about this is this was not a mechanic invented by the people who did the mega game. This was just some players that designed something which ended up being the coolest thing. Because there was a rule in the game whereby each generation, everyone lost all their resources. However, Goscoin was a way of continuing some form of remuneration, and it meant that they could give these coins to other people, and correct me if I'm wrong, Goscoin Lord, but they could give them to other people in exchange for immediate resources. So it's like, you give us some of this stuff right now and we'll give you a Goscoin, and these are good for return favors from our future generations. It's like, my grandchild will honor this Goscoin. Which did them really well and ended up probably winning them the game, right? However, what's wonderful is the information about the Goscoin was only really passed on through the Goss family, which meant when it got to the end of the game, people had inherited these coins but didn't really know what they were for. So it ended up being this loan that they never had to repay, because it's like, oh, I found this legal document, I don't really know what it means, and it's like, okay, put it in the bin.
One of the mini games they played in that Heirs of a Shattered Age mega game was one person from each family was a historian and wrote long sort of poems and annals of everything that happened in the game. So I go in there and I'm looking through these books, and I look through the book for House Goss, and the earliest entry from one of the merchants, the House Goss scribe, just said, Goscoin is basically a Ponzi scheme.
What a foundation. But I just love that. I think, people will design these games and they can come up with ideas and mechanics and ways that players might interact with them, but more often than not, you find that the real magic of mega games comes from players just kind of inventing their own systems,
just from
and the people running it having to go, okay.
And the amount that people do that improv thing of going, yes, okay, and they just buy in and it perpetuates it.
But that made momentum. Me really happy when I was sitting on my phone in bed. I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Finally, we should talk about, by far, I think, the most interesting thing I managed to play at SHUX, and you two
are going to enjoy hearing about this. We played Blood on the Clocktower.
Yeah, and Fire in the Sky.
I thought it was the Michael Jackson song.
No.
Blood on the dance floor, you're thinking.
Clock Tower.
Bam, bam, bam. So this is from an Australian designer who sadly I didn't get the name of. It's also not necessarily available. They're going to be kickstarting it soon. It's very similar to Werewolf, or that's the thing it shares the most DNA with. Pip is very excited. You all sit in a circle and, oh my goodness, someone has been found skewered on the hour hand of a clock tower.
Yeah, there's blood all over it. What a mess.
So Matt and I sat down and immediately felt like we were in a den of sharks because we sat in a circle. Me, Matt, and our guest Steve Wolfhard, and the moderator said, "So who's played this before?" And everyone else put their hand up in this tight little sort of Alcoholics Anonymous style circle of chairs. And then we were like, "Oh, what have we got ourselves into?"
We're going to get sharked.
As we were handed a piece of laminated paper with all the rolls on.
And honestly, like, full disclosure, when we got handed this sheet of paper and we looked at it, we heard it was kind of a mega game crossover. And as soon as I saw it, I kind of thought, oh, this looks like it might be a bit crap. Because it just looked like it was Werewolf again, but with some different roles and stuff. And I was completely wrong. It was brilliant.
It was amazing. I had a phenomenal time. But it's very intimidating because it's like, okay, one person around the thing is going to be the demon, and they are basically the archetypal werewolf. Some people are minions of the demon, and they have weird powers, like the poisoner, who we'll get to. And then everyone has a role, everyone has a power, and it's just an impossible amount of information. I was the Undertaker, which meant if anyone died, I could find out their role.
Yes. He found out their role by digging up their corpse the next day.
Yes.
So Quinn's basically, his main role in the game, for most of the game, was to accuse other people of being demons, see them lynched, and then overnight think about it and go, maybe I should double check. dig up their corpse that presumably he just buried and go, oh, no, they weren't lying. That was in fact the chef. That was the cook.
There was the washerwoman.
Yeah.
But the moment I think we realised there are a couple of twists which for me power the whole game. So people are aware that there's a moderator in Werewolf who'll like tap people on the shoulder to wake up the werewolves and then ask who they kill. So he does a lot of that because or he or she, but there are tons of roles. So there's a lot of moderation to do. However, one important thing is you could be the drunk, and this honestly, there was so many exciting ideas. It reminded me of playing Two Rooms in a Boom for the first time.
Yeah.
If you are the drunk, you think you are one of the other existing roles. So, for example, I'm the Undertaker, right? I dig up the corpses and get shown the chips of whoever died. If you are the drunk, only the moderator knows your ability is misfiring the entire game.
Yeah.
So what happens is we wake up and I go, oh, guys, I'm the Undertaker. That woman we killed really was the empath, unless I'm drunk.
Yeah. And the point at which me and Quinn's just went, like, opened our mouths aghast and thought this is actually brilliant was when Quinn said, listen, if I am the drunk and not actually a real gravekeeper and I'm just getting it wrong all the time, how is it determined what things I get shown? And he said, oh, it's always whatever would be the worst thing at that point.
So this is the key thing with what's it called, Blood on the Clocktower, is that the moderator is not a machine. They're not a parser. The moderator is deliberately messing with people.
Yes.
The moderator is able to play you like a puppeteer. So one of the minions who supports the demon is the poisoner, which means every night whenever it goes to sleep, the poisoner can point at any one person. And on that round, their ability doesn't work. In what way doesn't it work? In whatever way the moderator wants.
Yeah.
Which
if
means
it gives them bad information, it will give them the worst information. Which meant we worried for a long time because it kept being that, like, oh, we'll kill this person, and then we dug him up in the morning and he's like, I got some bad news. But then throughout this whole time, we were like, but he could be a drunk gravekeeper. You could be, like, actually you're killing bad guys, but each time you think it was a good guy in the morning.
We had all this unbelievable stuff. One of the roles is the Slayer, which means at one point in the game, they can point at any player in the circle and go, I'm taking out my crossbow and shooting you. If that player is, I love this so much, if they shoot the demon dies, that's the game, won. However, what the moderator doesn't say, it fails or it doesn't fail. The moderator only ever says, it works and the demon dies, or nothing happens. Now, what that means is I can go, oh, you know what, I'm going to reveal it. I'm the Slayer. I think Matt's the imp. I'm going to shoot him with my crossbow, and the moderator goes, nothing happens. That player could be lying about being the Slayer. Or they could have been poisoned that round. Or they could be a drunk Slayer. It's like, I'm the Slayer, of course. But there's no data. So when it doesn't, did that happen in our game? The Slayer tried to kill someone. It didn't work. And then we're like, What?
But that was wonderful because you're like, that doesn't mean anything. At that point, it didn't mean anything. But what was wonderful about it as well, and I think there is some really smart design in the fact that, unlike in Werewolf, where like lots of the abilities are active, in this, like a whole bunch of them are things that just happen at the very start of the game. Whereas like at the start of the game, you get told these two people, one of them is this, or these two people, one of them is this. So it doesn't slow down too much. And there are some people who just have information at the start of the game, and then that's kind of it. But what's wonderful is that information is often all you have, and we spent a lot of the game trying to unfurl a chain of being like, well, you said that, and then you said that, and then you said that, but then we killed that person and they were a chef. So you kind of try and unpick it and work out, it's like, which one of you guys could be drunk? And
There's loads of lovely
we
stuff.
had a drunk investigator, so the entire basis of our investigation was based on the guy who actually wasn't an investigator. He was just drunk. And it
was so excellently fuzzy. Like so often in Werewolf you have a fact or you have no information. Whereas this was, you have so much information, but any one piece could be wrong. Oh, and the voting system is fabulous. And it fits the Clocktower thing. So when you nominate someone, this is in the style of Werewolf, you don't nominate anyone to be lynched. I'm hoping everyone's familiar with Werewolf. If you don't nominate anyone to be lynched, that's fine. You go back into another night phase and the demon can kill again. But you didn't lynch anyone. In this, if I say let's nominate Paul, we then go clockwise around the circle from Paul. So it's like tick, tick, tick. Anyone at that point, when it gets to you, can vote. Now, it's not majority. Paul will just get somewhere between 0 and the player
You need to have at least 50%, I think.
No, you don't. If one person votes kill, because it's most. So if I nominate Paul and we go around the clock and he gets 1 vote, we have to nominate someone else or Paul dies.
Yep.
Who gets more votes.
Oh, yeah, I remember now, yeah.
So it's just loads of fabulous.
And also the way it works, and this was the point where we're going, this is so clever, is the fact that because you're in a circle, the moderator stands in the middle and turns their arm like a clock. And
that's
the
nice.
vote only counts if when their arm passes you, you have your hand up or down. Which means you can be like, yeah, I'll kill him, and then at the last minute go, or at the last minute jump up.
Oh.
And it means that like, it's not like that thing if you put your hand up and then go, oh no, I won't. It's like you made your decision, and then the whole time everyone's just sitting there going, I guess that means we just kill the person. And that's it. Like, there's no like, let's change our minds. It's happening.
There's so many.
And
so many
this
funny
is
rules.
the thing we buried an important bit of info here. A massive difference, from Werewolf is the fact that unlike in Werewolf, where if you get killed, you're just out, but you get to watch. In this, you're not out. You still have to play the game normally. You still have to close your eyes at night, and you still carry on. Also, you can still talk. So you're dead, but you can still talk because you're a ghost. That's how ghosts work. But rather than getting to vote as many times as you want each round, now you can only vote once for the rest of the game. And it means that you as a ghost have, and this really made me laugh because it's kind of like similar to the problem that a lot of countries have with politics at the moment of having like massively elderly slanted voters of being like, well, hang on a minute, people who are about to die are controlling the entire future of people for like generations and generations. It doesn't seem fair. This is worse because you can literally have a room full of ghosts who at one point can go, yeah, we want this person to get murdered. And because it's not like Werewolf where you think the dead people know more, they don't. They know exactly the same as everyone else. And in our game, all the ghosts were completely happy to hand the game to me, the demoning.
But what was lovely was, I didn't realise this, because I'm used to Werewolf and Resistance, but in our final turn of the game, it was me as a good guy. Everyone else who was alive was evil. So ordinarily in games of Werewolf, that's when you reveal and you go, you're outnumbered. But even though all the evil guys knew they outnumbered me and I was the only guy being like, I don't know what to do, you were petrified because the ghosts could still vote.
Yeah.
Which meant I'm just going like, what should we do? And you're like, I don't know, who could the evil guys be? Because at any point if I'm like, let's lynch him, all the ghosts suddenly come back and they're like, yes.
Yeah, so at the last minute everyone can have their revenge. So I was really sweating bullets. Because there's that thing of like, right at the end there was a point where, this is just a personal thing, I'd done pretty well, like with my cohorts. I was not the demon at the start of the game, someone else was, they were great, but then there came a point where I was playing as a character that if there are still 5 people playing when the demon dies, that person becomes a demon rather than losing the game. And we had to kill the demon in that turn, so I just completely threw him under a bus and was like, let's get this guy, because I knew that if we didn't, I couldn't become it and we couldn't win. But it meant that right at the end I was just absolutely losing my mind, because you suddenly said, I'm tempted to just vote for Matt, that we kill Matt, because I'll be really angry if he wins. And then, despite me having lied beautifully for the whole thing and was going to get away with it, suddenly I was like, oh gosh, because everyone was like, yeah. And I'm like, no. Don't do this just because Quinn's ego might be shattered. But as it was, your ego handled it perfectly.
Oh no, I loved losing. It was great. It was so much fun.
The point where we realised, sorry, this is one of those things where we get too excited sometimes, but the point at which we realised halfway through the game that because of the way it was moderated, Quinn's was so sure about everything, but we realised it created a mechanic where you can have someone who is lying for the whole game, but they're 100% sure that they're not, because they're drunk.
Yeah.
Which is dumb.
All of the powers are so funny, and it's that lovely thing that's in One Night Werewolf where you're mounting an argument, then you start doubting yourself, and you don't know what's real. It's so fuzzy, it's so raw.
It plays for like an hour. That's the other thing, is it's like Werewolf is fast. This is like, it's intense.
And everyone is involved for the whole thing.
I think it's great.
It's absolutely superb. So that's Blood on the Clocktower. You can absolutely bet that as soon as it's available, Shut Up and Sit Down will be giving it the earliest possible review. It's going to be coming to Kickstarter, I think, soon. But yeah, huge thanks as well to the Australian design team who came over to SHUX to demo it.
Yeah.
Fabulous stuff. I think we've got basically about, I saw a 15-minute warning there, so we have maybe about 12 minutes to wrap everything up.
Okay, well, we have some things under the table. Very kindly, we've been given this year
a real mailbag.
An actual mailbag. I'll be completely honest, these have just been handed to me. I cannot remember who made these for us.
Did they hear? Right there.
Was it
Sorry,
Jeff?
sir, what is your name, please? Jeff. Thank you so much, Jeff.
These are Jeff's bags. Check them out. We've actually got two of these. I think this one is meant for walking around conventions with, so people can pop them in. And then we got this one, which is just for podcasting, rummaging around in my mailbag. Ooh, put your hand in my mailbag. Found me a letter.
Really good build quality mailbag as well.
It is. Honestly, we got a lot of letters in here already. We're probably not going to pull many out, but we're definitely going to be using this on our podcast in the future. So when we say in the future we're going to put our hands into the mailbag, we will be. It's a physical real bag.
So thank you very much, Jeff, for that.
So unusually, I'm going to be putting my own hand into my own mailbag, which is not something we've ever done.
What could be in there?
I'll tell you what we got in here. Quentin.
Yes, I'm dreading this. My heart rate just went bad.
So Quentin, I think it must have been about a year and a half ago, you came round to my house to record a podcast.
Yeah.
And you had brought round a letter that you'd received. And you said, I've got this great letter, it's really good, I think you'll really like it, we can read it out on the podcast. We didn't get round to it. And I said, it's fine, I'll keep it in my cupboard office, I'll keep it there, and we can read it out on a future episode. And you were like, okay, cool. And then we forgot about it. And now I was tidying up my house about a month ago, and I found this letter.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to read it. So, it says, to Quinn's and the Shut Up and Sit Down crew, this is from some teachers and cooking amateurs in a freezing part of Bodo, I might be getting it wrong, in Norway. As promised, we've enclosed Matt's distinguished certificate for services delivered.
I remember this!
As a treat, we have enclosed a Norwegian delicacy for a special Shut Up and Sit Down lunch. Norwegian children eat this brown cheese with joy, but foreigners often find it a bit repulsive. So, you are now British ambassadors for the brown cheese.
Is that its name, the brown cheese?
The brown cheese. What is brown cheese, we hear you say? Well, it is the goop that is left in the bucket when the regular cheese is removed. Then the goop is cooked for your pleasure into something resembling cheese. Interestingly, my second name, Lees, literally means the leftover bits of clay after a potter has finished making a pot, which is depressing, but also quite similar to brown cheese. So they got it on point. What you need for this very special lunch is warm toast, real butter, salted, I respect these guys, and ice-cold chocolate milk. Haven't got any of that. When you sit down for lunch, you have finished half your task. The shut-up part will be accomplished when the cheese sticks to the top of your mouth and you have yourself a tongue-wiggling task of loosening it. No cheating with fingers, mind you. Have fun. And this is from Bent Nicolaisen and the Sicky Cheesemongers. And apparently I have a fake award, which I haven't looked at yet, which has pictures of me saying, is this a fake award? So I've got an award for head chef Matt Lees for educating Norwegian children in the art of cooking, which is lovely. However, Quint, you did just leave in my house without telling me, in my cupboard, some cheese. Which was, I was a bit like, when I found this, I was like, I just had some cheese sat in my cupboard for like almost 2 years, and Quinn's just never told me. I was like, I'll just put this here. And you were like, okay. And then, yeah, so warning, special shut up and sit down lunch ingredient. I have in this jiffy bag some cheese that is sat in my house. What do you have to say for yourself, young man? Letting your friend keep warm cheese in a cupboard without telling him, because you were like, oh, don't look at it, it'll be a surprise.
Wow, that made quite the noise.
I mean, I don't know what's in there anymore. It was cheese at one point.
Shall I open it?
No, whoa. There's a lot of people in here, and if this is like ground zero for some kind of new mold spore.
I survived an assassination attempt today, though.
Monarch
I'm feeling
Pip.
pretty bulletproof.
If you open it and it looks okay, I'll eat it.
I apologise to the front row in advance, just in case.
If I stop running, just run.
It's in plastic. So that's
Oh, you need to open the
fine.
plastic as well.
That's why I can't smell it, at least.
Do you want to say?
Do anyone want to check if it has a date on it?
Now, no. So, we don't need to worry about dates.
Are we talking best before or use by?
What is this, an inquisition? I'm not answering these questions unless I'm being court-martialed.
I don't like this.
So the inner lid is moist. The cheese has a sheen to it.
Oh, this sucks as well because it's called brown cheese and it's...
I would eat this. This smells
right.
good.
Okay.
It looks like packing tape.
Now,
Okay, we've got a sheen, but it's not a rainbow sheen. Because it's the
I think
rainbow
this is
sheens
fine.
you've got to watch for.
I don't like how
Yeah.
it's being passed from person
it
to
smells
person like a
nice.
sinister...
It's sort of halfway between a fudge and a cheese.
Someone says it's delicious.
That's not good.
Does it have anything on the back about refrigeration?
Now,
I mean, it says best for.
Give me the damn cheese.
see what I mean?
It just smells of cheese.
There's a slight sweetness.
Ordinarily,
It's still flexible.
it's still supple. Oh, it looks like luncheon meat. Oh,
It is.
there's something...
For those at home, it is the colour of leather. It's like tan
It's
leather.
just coming apart.
And it's very thin. It's like about 1 millimetre thin.
Oh, it does smell of cheese.
See?
It smells like cheese. It looks like cheese. That's like the Erie, Indiana thing, but then they don't eat the bologna sandwich. What a perfect time to not be able to find the way to get through the curtains that lead off the stage to the bathrooms. That's,
Any of the rest of us?
I mean, no one else had to. Like, if you're going to leave something in my house that's edible for 2 years, I'm going to make you eat it.
That's fair. That's fair. Paul, could
Fair
you?
play. I'm surprised you did it.
Okay.
Pip, I'm not
Do you
sure.
want it back? It looks actually hideous.
I mean, like, Quinn's did literally just run away
Yeah.
with it in his mouth. I know
I
you
don't
want to
think
try
it
it,
was
but
some comedy
I don't
acting.
think you want to try it.
It seems to have accumulated some like cheese jelly on this side.
So I feel I've partially got you back for trying to hoist a chocolate onion on me at PAX Unplugged last year.
There was a thing on the bin in the room we have behind there, a little sticker on the bin that says, "Stop! Is this really garbage?"
Pip, what are you doing?
I quite like it.
So thank you to the Norwegian sticky cheesemongers for inadvertently murdering
Oh,
Philippa.
I see what they mean about the roof of the mouth thing, though.
I think psychologically I was like, there was just something about the room that was a bit off, and it's like, I was just, something in some deep part of my soul went, nope. Do we have any actual questions in the mailbag or just poison cheese?
I think we can save questions for another time. I think ending on poison cheese feels like too fun a way to go.
Huge thanks to everyone who put actual letters in the mailbag.
Yeah, we're going to get to those, don't worry.
We will definitely look through them. Thank you all very, very much. And look forward to some more coverage of Blood on the Clocktower very soon. Thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you for coming.
everybody.
Thank you.